It's Mr. Bear Productions presenting...
I could barely breathe.
We had to leave.
Nobody had time to react.
These stories, these images, becoming all too familiar. And it's time we prepare. Introducing the RINO Ready Companion, the world's best two-person, 72-hour emergency survival system.
Meow. Huples cat and Mr. Bear. Oh, sorry, Mr. Bear. Anyway, I wanted to do a third video to try and justify the enormous cost of the RINO Commander Survival System, and I'm still not going to be able to justify the cost. But I thought I'd actually give you a breakdown of the reasonable priced items in it, because it actually was, in a way, a cheap alternative to buying stuff. Now, I think it was Kickstarter or Indiegogo, I can't remember. I think it may have even been on both. So because we did it very early, we got the bag for $300 US. They seem to be $400 US now, which is quite enough. But the actual items inside it, I'm going to give you a bit of a breakdown. So the bag itself, it actually is, now rattling, it is actually fairly well designed. It does have good attachment points. It has pretty strong and sturdy straps, and it does have the usual cooling padding on the back. Like I say, it's quite heavy. I haven't weighed it. It's got to be in the 25 to 30 pound range, and I kind of liked it. So on the outside of it, you can attach, like I said, what they're now selling to you is an attachment that goes here that you can actually stick other stuff to, which they haven't got yet. I won't be going that far. Like I said, this is the ideal size to go in the back of the Prius to give the dogs extra room in a car that's now a little smaller than the RAV4 we had. So this is the instructions. It's pretty basic, but it's actually, if you had no clue, it is actually very brief, and I don't really have too much argument with it. Other than filter water through the bandana, which you have to order extra. Yeah, that's not going to actually protect you from much of anything. You're just going to get chunks out of it. Do add in water purification tablets and a filter into this system. So this goes here on this design. It's actually not really a bad place, if there's two of you, to put the map, because you need to have local maps. So what does this not have, before I get into the price breakdown? It doesn't have a decent compass. I consider that to be an error. If you're going to go at the extreme of having goggles on and a face mask for smoke and wildfire, which I think is a good idea, you know, you might want a compass so you're actually heading in the right direction if you can't see where you're going. You know, I can see why they didn't put one in, but I would definitively always have a compass in one of these. I would also have a notebook and a couple of pencils. I think that's really important. And I would actually have a permanent marker or two in here, so I could actually write messages on the insides of microwaves and things like that to let my loved ones know what I'm about and where I'm going. And I don't think that's a bad idea at all. So this was 400 American. I'm actually assuming the bag, if I bought it in Canada or bought something similar, would actually cost me less than 400 American. I'm assuming that the bag itself would cost me a grand total of 75 Canadian. Now that's arguable. I could easily see this going for 110, 120, and in fact they are selling the bags online. But when you open it up, there you have it. So what is the price of these items? I think it's kind of interesting, and I'm going to rattle them off for you and show you them, because that's the way to do it. The water bottle, I'm saying 20 Canadian. Could easily be 25, 30 if you bought it from an equipment store, but I think it's pretty good. These are priceless. The Daytrex bars for me would be about $20 Canadian each to get from Amazon. I know you can get them cheaper in the States, you can't up here. The little hand radio and crank radio, which actually has a weather channel on it, it's not the greatest radio, and for a bug out scenario I'd actually like the radio to be attachable and waterproof, so I'd actually want to spend a little bit more money, because I want to hear weather alerts while I'm on the go, not necessarily just when I'm camping in a plastic tent. I'm saying that is about 40 Canadian. It's actually not a bad one, and it's smaller than most of them, and I kind of like that, but I would like it to be waterproof and attachable. The other things I wanted in this is I would in fact have two small hand radios for limited use. two people bugging out, I think it's a really nice idea for one person to be able to go ahead without the bag and leave the other person hidden with the bags, and to scout it out and say, no, this is dangerous, or yeah, I'm coming back and we can go. It will relieve anxiety. Because let's face it, most of the time you're going to leave the weaker member, the weaker sex behind, and you're going to go and scout, right? So to be completely sexist, most of the time I envision that I would leave Kitty with the bags in hiding and I would go ahead and scout. Now, I do have some military background years ago, so that's why I would take that. Obviously, if Kitty had been in the Royal Marines and I hadn't, Kitty should be the one going scouting and I should be hiding with the bags. I estimate the knife at $30. It's a little unfair. The Fire Steel's probably a $25 item for me alone, and the multi-tool's probably $40, so I would never pay $40 for one like that. So I'm kind of really underestimating these prices, but what I came up with at the end of the day was about 635 Canadian. That's really, really looking at the prices being low. Now, obviously 3 or 4 of these little bags that they keep the stuff in alone, people will pay $20, $25 online for them. They are pretty durable bags. I'm quite happy with them. So overall, I don't think I've been ripped off, and I really, really still like this item. You guessed it, it's the plastic tent. No, it's these gloves, and we now have 4 of them, which is useful, and they are winter gloves, which I think is very, very important. Water resistant, nitrile grip, thermal knit lining, and you can order the sizing as well when you buy all of this stuff. But I'm kind of looking for a durable pair of outdoor work gloves, and I think I may have found them. These would be great in a bug out scenario. They've got that nitrile grip stuff on them, so you can really grab stuff when your hands are frozen. And obviously inside a really thick glove for me in the Canadian winter would be good. But yeah, not a bad glove. Quite happy to have 2 pairs of these. Because we've got 2 kits, the total of 600 US, we've got 4 pairs of these, 2 pairs each, which is great. And I'm quite pleased with that. But like I say, just as an example, this raincoat design, it's an emergency item that I probably won't need. I might carry it in some sort of car kit, but that's about as far as I'd push it. And the plastic tube tent, well, we'll really have to try that out. And I don't really have any truck with these, except as an emergency first aid item. I really don't think you're going to be very warm or comfortable in most conditions with the items they give you to be warm.
When things get a bit colder, stay warm with 3 layers of protection, 2 pairs of winterized work gloves, and 4 hand warmers.
And I think that's the point for me, is if it is in fact a bug out, what you might want to consider is having bug out clothes in a bag. You know, really hard wearing, cheap second-hand, non-standing out clothes. You don't need to go military camo, but you might want to go dark greys and blacks and dark greens. It's a great idea. Have that attached to or with the bug out system. So you may not have the time, and you probably shouldn't have the time to do it as a planned bug out. Because if it's an emergency bug out, you should be able to grab that bag, and when it's safe, stop and dress. You want to keep warm by how your clothing is. Your clothing is the vital part of this. I really do think that. Now, wind and rain are bad, but I do think a tarp system would be way better than what plastic tube tent. I don't know, has anybody slept in a plastic tent in the winter? I doubt it. You'd probably die. I'm also estimating the first aid kit at $40, but to be frank with you, they do have a pair of cheap but EMT shears in there. So I think that's grossly unfair. It's probably more $60, $70, and I did the same for everything else. And the bottom line is that nice flashlight, probably $40, maybe a bit more, but like I say, it doesn't work, and I'll never ever get over that. And I'll be intrigued to see if the second kit has a working flashlight in it. Because if it's a problem, then it really should have been picked up by these guys and girls before they sent the stuff out. So I'm pretty sure they were pretty swamped, and packing all of these individually would drive you insane. Now in fairness, the little card they give you tells you to use the sachets first, and I think that's smart. It's pretty bulky in weight, So I think that's a good idea. And I think if you're in a water short area, something like the lifeboat water is probably smart, even though it's really heavy and there isn't that much water in it compared to what you're actually going to get. So up here, like I say, I literally have water everywhere. Everywhere I go, there's water. And all I need to do is put a tablet in the bottle and I can drink it in half an hour or so, depending on the conditions, and I can pre-fill it with a bandana. They should have put a bandana in this, not sold it separately. I'm not quite sure why they didn't. And that's kind of where I would go with this. This kind of a system, I would actually consider putting one LifeStraw Mission 12 or even my LifeStraw Mission 5 in this, because it would fit for the two people, because the ability just to scoop the water, hang it, and literally have almost a pretty strong flow of a tap and have 5 to 12 litres of water within 20 to 30 minutes, I think is incredibly important. But again, it's my bias. I'm used to a lot of water being handy and I can take it. So obviously if you live in Arizona, nowhere near a river, the water you have is the water you carry, and I think that's a really important point. Obviously, if you're going to bug out in situations like that and it's a planned bug out from the home, because you should have a destination if you bug out, you might want to consider caching water along the route if it's a desert area or you have desert times of the year. Really, lack of water in a bug out situation with you stressed, moving a lot more physically arduously than you're normally used to, you are going to burn through water. I would expect me and Kitty in the winter, if we had to start going from here to the Shire on foot, without of course Mr. Bubbles and Becky, we would actually probably be able to do about 20 to 35 kilometers a day. That's going to take 2 to 3 to 4 days to get adjusted to that. So, you know, I'm not telling you how far away it is, but it's a fair distance. Now, given conditions of snow and ice, that could drop dramatically, but also the energy will increase alarmingly, and you can starve for 3 or 4 days. So I don't really have a problem with the day treks. I think it's kind of a good idea. My problem with the day treks is there's so little of it, and it doesn't really tell them that they have to be careful. There is instructions about foraging, about taking a tiny bit if you're very, very hungry and waiting 8 hours before you eat any more of it. Yeah, okay. It's sound advice, but the calorie input's going to be very, very negative for you in a bug out situation. You really have to pack a lot more food that's calorie dense. And I would have gone with 1 pack of the day treks, but I would have gone with the 3,600 calorie version and said 1,200 calories a day as a minimum. But I've also would have put fruit and nut bars in here, vegan. Because I'm vegan, but also because it doesn't really go off, it just goes a bit white. Chocolate without milk is one of those really, really long-term things. That would help. It definitely would help with morale, and it would also help with the calorie burn. Now, I've had an argument about cleanliness before. It comes from the army, and in the army you're indoctrinated, in fact in the Air Force and the Navy, to actually be very clean. Because you can get foot infections, groin infections, all the rest of it when you're out there multi-day, multi-week, multi-month. And that's absolutely true. Now this is a 72-hour bug-out kit. You're not going to get trench foot. Well, you might, because there's no spare socks. It doesn't tell you to carry spare socks, and you always should carry spare socks and underwear. But you're not going to get those sort of a problem if you don't wash for 3 or 4 days. You're just not. You're going to stink, but let's face it, that's not a big deal. One of the major issues with this is I would have included in this kit probably either Creek Stewart's book. I would have gone to deal with him and done it cheap, or I would have made my own little book up for this with 20, 30 pages in it telling people when to and how to bug out, and also with 3 or 4 pages saying where to bug to. It doesn't really tell you. If it's an evacuation because you are leaving your house because there's been a rail derailment and you've got no time to leave, this will make you absolutely more comfortable both on the bus as you're being evacuated. We're just having a toast interlude. This is why I'm fat. Really good bread with vegan cheese and vegan ham because we like the fat, and a bit of vegan margarine. It's like catnip for bull terriers. He will get some. Well, there's always hope that there'll be more toast. So yeah, that's what I would do with this. I would have like a 10-tree blanket in here, and I'd probably have a tarp system that if you can't get a micro real tent with a mosquito screen. I'd put DEET in here, though I don't normally use DEET. I would. Mosquito suit would be good for this, certainly for the summer and the winter. Not so much. So again, you can overcomplicate a bug out bag, but I really do think this is being sold to rich people who don't really have much idea, right? And I think they should have at least a little booklet of instructions, something as simple as, if you're going to put this away, open it up and check everything works first. Put cash into one of the containers. Put photocopies of at least your social security and your passport in here. Put a photocopy of a driver's license in here. You can go crazy with that sort of stuff. Every bank account and all the rest of it. But it's not a bad idea to have actual written ID, government ID, written down. In a bug out situation, you have to assume that you're just bugging out with like 4 seconds notice, if that. You're not planning to leave. If you're a planned bug out, you really do need to put your own bug out bag together. Using this as a basic startup system would be very good. I have no doubt about it. I can think back 4 years. Getting a system like this would have made me feel I'd checked the bug out bag box. And, you know, it doesn't. Something as simple as a micro towel instead of a bandana might be a good idea, but there's a whole bunch of things I can see that are in this bag that I don't want to be in the bag if I have to bug out with it. But there's a fair number of stuff in here that I'm quite delighted to get. And like I said, for me, I've probably saved about 100 minimum Canadian dollars by buying this bag. Now I haven't really, because I already have most of the stuff, but that's how I'm going to justify it. So Mr. Bumbles has come back, and I just wanted to say that you should not ever buy things junk online, and junk is junk. I have accumulated a whole pile of stuff, and part of the beauty of moving from here in about a year or so to the Shire for retirement is I'm actually going to gather all of this stuff up and put it in on the bed, and then I'm going to keep what brings me joy, and the rest of the stuff I'm going to put away or dispose of. I can figure out how I'm going to do that, but I'll figure something out. It's always useful to have disposable plastic ponchos, I guess, at certain times. Certainly I've used a trash bag before in my everyday kit when it was absolutely peeing down while the summer and I hadn't got a coat at all. I just had my shirt on, I had to walk from the bus, so I actually used the trash bag. I got a lot of funny looks from people. The people driving cars. People driving cars have no clue what's going on anyway. So I know what you'll all say, this is a complete waste of money. That if you had 300 American bucks you would not buy this. And I get that. And if I had 300 American bucks and I was sober, I wouldn't have got this either. But it is price competitive for a Canadian paying the extra money we have to pay to get some stuff up from the States like the day tracks. So I'm somewhat happy with it. The goggles, I really wanted them to be sealed. I'm not happy they're not sealed. But you know what? For sun glare in the winter, they'll work just fine. Not everything's a smoke event, right? It could just be because you're in the snow. And speaking of which, Becky Booster. Hey Becky Boo, come on. Yep, we had more snow. And at least the temperature's risen. It was bitter cold this morning, but now it's actually kind of nice. And if you were up here, you'd be quite comfortable. Maybe not. Yay! Bisky! And there's Becky. And there's Bear. Should I get off the sofa or not? Bear. Oh, Mr. Bear. Alright, I warn you, it's snowing. It's snowing. There he goes. Off to seek some privacy. Well, that's it from me. Stay safe out there. Remember, SHF, if you don't prepare, tomorrow will always be worse than today. And part of prepping for everyday emergencies is having a go bag, a bug out bag, a little bag that will feed you and keep you hydrated and keep you warm and comfortable for about 72 hours. And I think it's kind of an essential thing to have. It doesn't cost so much as 300 US for most people, but it's a good idea. But like I say, have some cash, have some documents in it, have a compass in it, have a much better warmth system in it. Take out the food, take out the water, replace it with stuff that you would actually need in your specific location, and consider time of year. I think it's really important. Like most emergencies that we experience are solved very easily by two things, three things. A cell phone that works and charges, cash, and a credit card that's accepted by people. For pretty much most emergencies I've ever faced, that's helped me out. But, you know, where's the fun in that? Doodles. Oh, and goodbye from Becky Booster. She's had her biscuits and she's been outside.
I can barely breathe.
We had to leave.
Nobody had time to react.
These stories, these images, becoming all too familiar. And it's time we prepare. Introducing the RINO Ready Companion, the world's best two-person, 72-hour emergency survival system. Stocked with over 40 life-saving products, the RINO Ready Companion is built to withstand anything that comes your way, big or small, giving you unparalleled access, versatility, and organization when it matters most. For the last decades, when you think of preparedness, pretty much this, leaving you vulnerable and unprepared. And that's exactly why we started RINO Ready. Because you shouldn't have to compromise on quality, especially when your safety and the safety of those you love are at stake. So regardless of your climate or geo, we've got you covered when adversity strikes. The Companion features the toughest waterproof and fire-resistant materials, a rigid exoskeleton, and military-grade Hypalon attachment points, giving you ultimate carrying capacity. Now, let's take a look inside. Stay connected with our 3-in-1 phone charger, radio, and flashlight, powered by crank or solar. Breathe easy with our N95 masks, along with heat-reflective UV guard goggles to keep your vision sharp. With a sturdy multi-tool and 550 paracord at the ready, along with our full tang blade and fire starter, you will be well equipped. Stay hydrated with these three options: tablets, sachets, and boiling. When things get tough, our kit has you covered. And if you ever need additional assistance, we are here to help with the most compact, comprehensive survival guide out there. When things get a bit colder, stay warm with 3 layers of protection, 2 pairs of winterized work gloves, and 4 hand warmers. And when the lights go out, you're powered on with a flashlight, headlamp, glow sticks, and stormproof matches. If you get hungry, our Daytrex US Coast Guard approved food rations are non-GMO and nut-free. The RINO Ready Companion Survival System uses unmatched quality with an ultra-compact design to fit seamlessly into your daily life, ready at a moment's notice. So, whether it's in your car, home, or office, bring us along for the journey. Live prepared. Live RINO Ready.
This has been a Bad Terrier production, 2019. You can't get good bull terriers anywhere, can you?